Shane. Shane. Allen.
Hey, what's going on? It's the 38th parallel, week 11 preview. We're back from our bye week. We had a pretty good bye week. We won, Alan. We won our bye week. How's that feel?
Yes. Undefeated against the fighting buys. Yeah. Try again next year, losers. But I think we earned a bye week, to be frank. We stuck it out all the way through. We did our mid-season kind of recap and power rankings, and then we had to take a week off. That's a lot of work. It used to be we just showed up and talked. And then that got really out of hand really fast. Gosh, so now we're structured and we got to run everything by the network and here we are. Yeah. But speaking of structure, we're going to kick things off with this week's lightning round, starting off with number one. Shane, Bill Barnwell of ESPN wrote this week about a QB carousel. He predicted as many as a third of the league's teams could be looking to replace their quarterback this offseason. So who is your favorite or favorites to make a QB change?
Oh, I was thinking about this, looking at this. And so I think Justin Fields, I think it's time. I think we know for a fact that it's just not going to
You think so?
Yeah, it's over.
Okay.
It's over. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to say, and by the way, I think all of my answers are going to be Jets. So I'm just going to go ahead and just say that as like a spoiler. But yeah, Justin Fields. And also the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. They have Dylan Gabriel and they have Shadur Sanders. They did have Deshaun Watson. We don't know what, that's probably just what, I don't know what's going to happen with him. And they got rid of Joe Flacco. I know he's 4,500 years old, but they could, he was doing okay.
He's exactly my age. Thanks. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, that's my answer. My answer is Justin Fields. It's over. And whatever is going on in Cleveland.
So there's a lot to choose from, right? Yeah. So this is kind of breaking it down into tiers. I think it's possible that the Dolphins, Jets, Steelers, Browns, Raiders, Panthers, Saints, and Cardinals are all looking at QB changes next season. So that's eight teams out of 32 right there. After that, I would say don't be totally surprised if the Texans, Vikings, and Falcons join the list in the next year or two, kind of depending on injury status, consistency. And there's one other that I'll discuss a little bit later in the show. I want to focus on just one that I would say like is a surefire thing. You said Justin Fields. I'm going to go with old Geno Smith, our West Virginia alum in Las Vegas. Look, in 2026, they would be paying him $26.5 million. 18.5 is already guaranteed. If they traded him before June 1st, they would save all that and on the cap. If they cut him by mid-March, they would only save $8 million. Here's the thing, though. They went out and overspent to bring this guy in to make Pete Carroll happy. For one, I don't think Pete Carroll should be there this time next year. I think they should be making a coaching change. But on top of that, this is a veteran in the league that you went out to kind of be a holdover while you're bringing in a new regime. And what has this veteran presence brought to the locker room? He has a 34.7 QBR. He's 31st out of 33 qualifying quarterbacks. If that's the best that your veteran free agent signing can do, you can try almost anything else. You literally can barely be worse than Geno Smith has. So I'm going to go with Geno Smith.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe answer.
Moving on to our next question. Question number 2, the race for the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft appears to be down to 5 teams. That would be the Browns, the Raiders, the Saints, the Jets, and the Titans. So, Shane, kind of a two-parter. Who do you think gets the pick, and what do you think they're going to do with it?
Well, I hinted at earlier, the New York Jets. I just don't have any confidence in that team. I'm sorry.
Jets.
Yeah. Sorry, Fireman, whatever your name is, but it's just not going to happen this year. So, yeah, New York Jets. Now, like I said, Justin Fields, it's over. So the safe bet would be they're going to draft his replacement. When you say, like, that would be the safe bet because, like I said, Justin Fields is just not going to work. I don't know. We even talked about this in, I believe, the previous episode before this one, where Woody Johnson had some comments to say about old Justin Fields. He didn't sound too confident in him. So if your owner doesn't sound too confident in the starting quarterback, it's over. How many times do I have to say that? It's over. Alan?
Look, the Jets are going to be drafting it doesn't matter if the Jets win out and drop to halfway down the road. They're still drafting a quarterback first. All right. That's just that's going to happen.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. The Titans actually have an easier schedule down the stretch. They've had one of the hardest schedules in the NFL to start the season. That's kind of surprising. Yeah. They're not favored in any of their remaining games, although a couple of them are toss-ups. That's at Browns, week 14, and then week 17, the Saints. I do think they're going to be back-to-back number one pick. Now, this is what they should probably do. They should probably trade down to a team that's desperate enough to grab the top quarterback in the draft, and they can stock up. Because this team is cover your eyes awful pretty much across the board. Listen to this. They're 31st in passing. They're 31st in rushing. They're 32nd in total offense. They're 30th in defense. Now, I mean it when I say this. Defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons is a top 10 best player in the whole NFL in any position. I mean that.
Yeah.
But there is not a single other player on the entire 53-man roster that couldn't be improved upon in free agency or the draft. And by the way, I include quarterback in that conversation. I know that they just drafted Cam Ward number 1 overall. Cam Ward's been atrocious. Among qualifying players, he's 27th in yards per game. He's 43rd in completion percentage because that many backups have performed better than he has. He's 36th in touchdowns with a whopping 5. He's also been sacked 38 times, which is the most in the NFL. That puts his QBR at 24.4, which is dead last, behind players like Dylan Gabriel, Geno Smith, and Justin Fields. If they did draft a QB, I wouldn't even be mad. But either way, it doesn't matter. There is no saving the Titans for many, many years to come. Just a terrible team. My God. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Moving on to our question number 3. Your boy, quarterback Brock Purdy, is officially back in the lineup, Shane, for the 49ers. Sunday's game against the Cardinals. What a week to come back. Just ease right back on in against the Arizona Cardinals. There's only 7 weeks remaining in the season. Is there time to get back on track in the divisional race? And is Purdy actually the difference maker?
Well, I mean, Mac Jones has played pretty well in Brock Purdy's absence. And I would say a lot of 49ers fans have been saying this because I'm on 49ers Twitter. I see that, what they say. And a lot of Niners fans are saying, yeah, I think Mac Jones is probably a pretty good he's a really good kind of, I guess, command of the Kyle Shanahan offense, right? Now, Brock Purdy, he also has a pretty good command. But the thing that has been pretty prevalent since Mac Jones has been the starter is that he has a stronger arm. He seems to be more accurate. He's completing more of his passes, and he's tougher. I mean, there was one game where he was just, it seemed like his entire body was just about to break, and he was still in there just toughing it out. And Brock Purdy has turf toe, which again, that's not some, minuscule type of injury. That's a real serious injury, especially for a quarterback. But I don't know. Difference maker is hard because Mac Jones did a really good job. So Brock Purdy is going to have a lot to prove. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, it's tough because Mac Jones, in Mac Jones's defense, by the way, yes, his body was breaking down, but they basically didn't have anyone else to go in. You're already the backup quarterback. So if he's not going in, then it's like, who's going in? Yeah. I think Mac Jones has performed above and beyond expectations, both for him individually, and just as a backup quarterback in general. With that said, I mean, look, I think that Brock Purdy is the legitimate starter of this team. I don't think that there's any serious drama in who should be or could be the starter for this franchise. But Brock Purdy isn't going to change. I put it this way: if Brock Purdy had been starting every week this year, I'm not sure that their record would be extremely different. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that is fair to say. And a couple of other things to add real quick. There's already a trade market, it seems like, for Mac Jones. Now, the 49ers signed Mac Jones to a 2-year deal as opposed to when they signed Sam Darnold to just a 1-year deal. I'm not saying that's going to be super different in terms of what they're going to do. Could they trade him? Who knows? But that 2-year signing contract is pretty important because they still have the option to keep him. And the fact that he is a really good backup, and we don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be considered injury prone. He could be considered injury prone for a lot of people, but who knows? So you have to have a reliable backup that can win you games and that can just keep the offense rolling in your absence. And he did that. Like you were saying, we don't know if the record would be any different, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. And you know what? The Cardinals, they're a terrible team. So, hey, Brock Purdy, go out there and destroy the Cardinals, because I don't know if you'd be able to do that against the Rams. They're awesome right now. So,
yeah. Well, on that note, last one before we move on. Number 4, the New York Football Giants have relieved head coach Brian Daboll of his coaching duties after the first of the week, following their 24. Boy, that image has gotten a lot of mileage this year.
Oh, yeah.
Following their 24-20 loss to Chicago, that was their 8th loss of the season. So my question is, who will be the next head coach to go? What do you think?
Oh, man, I was looking at the list that I saw there's a lot of coaches, it seems like. So, okay, first off, I was reading that Raheem Morris is a possible candidate because that team is just confusing. We don't know what team that is. One game they're getting destroyed by a terrible team, and then against really good teams, they're in the thick of it. So we don't know what kind of team they are. Now, my choice, I would say, that is probably maybe out of left field, I think. No, I'm just kidding. It's Aaron Glenn of the Jets. I'm sorry. It's Aaron. Like I said, this is going to be the New York Jets
first
time.
year? Come on.
I don't have any confidence in him. Okay, now, saving grace, Woody Johnson seems to like Aaron Glenn, so there is that aspect of it. But you have to have a quarterback. I'm sorry. You have to have a good quarterback. Justin Fields is not a good quarterback. Aaron Glenn is obviously a defensive-minded coach. He was a defensive back, so of course he's going to know more about defense. But their defense has been bad. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Aaron Glenn he's not cutting it. And you know what? It's not the first time their first-year head coach has been fired. He ain't going to be the last.
Yeah. So I definitely think that Aaron Glenn is on the hot seat, despite the fact that it's his first year. But I'm actually going to go with your opponent this week, Jonathan Gannon of the Arizona Cardinals. His situation is also kind of a little bit muddy because they're financially committed to Kyler Murray at the moment, but it looks like he might be on his way out the door. The team looks like they want to move on. But it's kind of hard to tell whether or not that actually helps or hurts Jonathan Gannon, because it's sort of a built-in excuse for his poor record. That's 15-28 in 2+ seasons, 3-6 this year. But the Cardinals may just want to start fresh. If they're going to start with a new QB, maybe they start with a new coaching staff all the way around. The fact that his defense has consistently ranked in the bottom 10 since he arrived, despite the fact that he is a defensive-minded head coach, also isn't exactly doing him any favors. So I'm going to move Jonathan Gannon up on my board on the hot seat.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think, and I know you also mentioned that, Pete Carroll, and again, this is his first year as the Raiders head coach. He's 10 years in the past with what he's doing right now. Geno Smith has always been there as the placeholder for someone else. But he does have a track record for coaching not first round quarterbacks. Russell Wilson wasn't a first round draft pick. He came out to be this Hall of Fame quarterback when he was in Seattle. After that, he's just been a complete disaster. So it's possible that if they just really want to go and be like, hey, the Pete Carroll thing didn't work out. Thanks, but no thanks. I think he could also be on his way out. And then also, of course, another obvious answer, Mike McDaniel over there in Miami. Again, I don't think it's going to work out.
Yeah. So I think Mike McDaniel, I think, is number one on the hot seat list, but the organization has already said we're firing the GM and you're finishing the season. Now, does that mean you're finishing the season and then you're out? I tend to think yes, but since he's finishing the year, I'm going to say that Gannon might not finish the year. Moving on to our Week 11 Q&A, we're going to kind of call this the high stakes edition. Listen to this, Shane. Of the top 14 teams likely to make the playoffs, according to Vegas odds, 10 of them are playing each other this weekend. What a heck of a playoff preview. That's 5 games, 2 between NFC hopefuls, 2 all AFC, and 1 cross conference. So we're gonna break down some of these games before we do our picks section. We're gonna start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6-3, going on the road to play the also 6-3 Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites at home in this game. What do you think, Shane?
I really think Tampa needs to win this game because they're one of the best teams in the league right now. And I like Baker Mayfield. He's a great quarterback. He's completely reinvented himself. And as much as Buffalo Bills are a great team, obviously Josh Allen's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. But I'm sorry, I like the Buccaneers. And who does Buffalo have over there other than Josh Allen? I can't name, and I honestly cannot name another person on the Bills team other than him. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers on this one.
Yeah. So the thing is, and because I'll kind of break it down. We'll do Bucks and Bills a little bit separate. By the way, if I was going to name another Bill, it'd be James Cook, who's got 920 rushing yards already on the season. Wow, he's having a hell of a year. Well, here's the thing: the Bucks were 5-1 heading into their Week 8 game against Detroit, and now boom, they've lost 2 of their last 3. So for most of the season, the issue was kind of the revolving door across the entire offensive line. You might remember we talked about that a few weeks ago. Yeah. The Bucks only had 1 player that was a starter on the offensive line playing his native position. Well, now the injury bug has gone to the linebackers and receivers. Linebackers Marquise Watts and Hassan Reddick are both out this week for the Bills. That's hurting an already depleted defensive front with defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey tore his pectoral back in September. As for offensive weapons, Baker Mayfield is going to be without wide receivers Michael Evans, Jalen McMillan, and Chris Godwin, with those first 2 out for most, if not the rest of the regular season. To add more injury to injury, running back Bucky Irving is also out this week. So the bad news for the Bucs, if all of that wasn't enough, is that they also have the LA Rams next week to end a 5-game stretch that included the Lions, Patriots, and Bills. That's a pretty tough schedule. So having dropped a couple of games isn't that surprising. The good news is the rest of their schedule is arguably the easiest in the NFL, with the Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Dolphins, and Panthers twice. Congratulations, you're in the NFC South. Despite the recent turmoil, they still lead the division, and they can secure it and a home playoff game in the near future. Losing this and losing next week would hurt, but they can survive it. But I agree with you that the Bills, on the other hand, are a little bit more desperate for a win. Believe it or not, the Bills have lost 3 of their last 5 games, including to their divisional rival Patriots. The Patriots now have 3 more wins than the Bills. Yeah, that's right. So on paper, the Bills shouldn't be struggling the way they are, right? They're 12th in passing. They're 1st in rushing. They're 6th in scoring and 11th in scoring defense. Their defensive problems are twofold. 1, they're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback, rushing 4, and they're giving up big chunk plays in the running game. The problem seems to be solved with defensive end Michael Hoke having a fantastic game in their win against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. And then you know what? Boom, he tears his Achilles. You combine that with defensive end Landon Jackson and defensive tackles TJ Sanders and Fedarian Mathis all being out. Their pass rush and their run stopping are borderline non-existent. Speaking of rushing, opposing running backs have had games against the Bills of 169 yards, 170 yards, and 174 yards.
Jeez.
Add to that a lack of serious downfield threat in the passing game. And this team, all of a sudden, as it so often has in recent years, they're relying really heavily on that man right there on the screen, Josh Allen, having a perfect game. Unfortunately for him, perfect games have been harder to come by this year. He's dropped out of the top 10 in yards and touchdowns. He's rocketed up to 20 turnovers, 15 interceptions, and 5 fumbles. They still have games against at Steelers, at Patriots, and the Eagles. So I think that the Bills need this game a lot more than the Bucs do if they want to have any hope of winning the AFC East. If they drop this and those other challenging games, it's not a guarantee they even make the postseason. So pump the brakes on the Buffalo Bills. Moving on to our next game. This is an all AFC matchup. The Los Angeles Chargers, who are 7-3, are going on the road to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 5-4. The Jaguars are just treading above 500, but they do have that big win against Kansas City. However, as the home team, they're 2.5-point underdogs to the visiting Chargers. What do you think? Are you that high on the Chargers?
Ah, man, the Chargers seem to be kind of this up and down team, right? They seem to look amazing one game, and the next game you're just thinking, man, I thought Justin Herbert was some all-star, all-pro quarterback. I don't know what's going on here. So yeah, I think this one's going to be a real interesting game. The Jacksonville Jaguars were another team where you're thinking, oh, this could be it. Like, wow, they could be so amazing, and then they kind of seem to drop off a bit there. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, okay. We'll start with the Jaguars. So You're right. They kind of had a hiccup there.
Yeah.
They started 3-0, and then they lost 3 out of 4, and now they're back on another 3-0 win streak. So it's very, very high and low. Now Herbert, for his part, Justin Herbert has done a lot to quiet doubters this season. He's third in the league in passing, 2,610 yards through 10 games. Also, there's been sort of this reinvention of him as a dual threat quarterback. He's got 51 carries for 324 yards. I don't think anyone saw that coming going into this year. No. They also have a top 10 defense, by the way. They're 8th in scoring defense. Now, the loss of rookie running back Amari and Hampton, that stung. But they've managed to keep churning out ground yards to keep it balanced with Kamani Vidal along with the aforementioned Herbert. They're a half a game back on the Broncos right now for the AFC West lead. And they're 2 up on the Chiefs, both of which they still play once more, along with a visit from the Eagles. But they also still have games against the Raiders, Cowboys, and Texans. So if they win this game, a playoff berth is already pretty likely. A divisional championship is on the cusp, and even sweeter, if the Chargers and Broncos keep winning, the Chiefs may not make the playoffs.
Let's go.
Speaking of the Jaguars are kind of circling the drain. Yeah. You know, they won 4 of their first 5 games, including that big win against the Chiefs, which may yet still loom large in the wild card race. But now they've lost 3 of their last 4. Speaking of losing, they've lost that guy on the screen right there, Travis Hunter, for the rest of the season. And their only win was a 1-point survival against the Raiders. Oof. What's more, they're in the AFC South, where the Colts are absolutely running away with the division. So the wild card is all the Jaguars can play for at this point. Now, Trevor Lawrence, God, love him or hate him, Trevor Lawrence is getting paid a lot of money. Through 2030, they're paying him $275 million. 200 of that was guaranteed. And he's got a no-trade clause. Now, what has that money bought the Jaguars? He's 18th in passing. He's 23rd in touchdowns. His QBR is 6th worst out of 33 qualifying players. That's what $275 million has gotten him. The likes of Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, and Spencer Rattler all have higher QBRs than Trevor Lawrence.
Come on.
To add injury to insult, they're now without Travis Hunter. They're also potentially without wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. and both tight ends, Hunter Long and Brenton Strange, and offensive tackle Anton Harrison. They're going to need a huge performance from what is a bottom third defense to give Lawrence any chance of keeping up with the Chargers. They do still play the Colts twice, along with the Broncos and Chargers, which is an incredibly tough schedule. But glass half full, it's also an opportunity to get back in it. The rest of the schedule is the Cardinals, the Titans twice, and the Jets. So there's plenty of wins still out there for the Jaguars as well. The question is can they win enough of those big games that they can still survive to the wild card? I guess time is going to tell. But moving on to the next one, we have the other 5-4 team on here, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are if they lose this weekend, they're 500 team. Kansas City Chiefs are 5-4 going on the road to play the 8-2 Denver Broncos. Listen to this, Shane.
Yeah.
Vegas has the 8-2 home Broncos as 3.5-point underdogs to the 5-4 Chiefs. What do you think about that total disrespect?
Oh man, look, just like with the Philadelphia Eagles constantly getting that home field or just the Vegas respect, no matter what game they're playing in, the Kansas City Chiefs are getting that too, because they were both in the Super Bowl last year. So yeah, as much as it's kind of weird that the Denver Broncos do have a better record than the Chiefs, they're still getting that disrespect, as you're saying. Yeah, I think the Broncos better go in there and smack that, what I'm going to say. Yeah.
Well, once they're done doing that, they should win the game.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that this is what you would call a must-win game for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, it's really damn close. Yeah. I mean, they're 5-4. And we're not, by the way, we're not talking about the AFC West. We're talking about reaching the postseason at all.
Just in general.
On paper, the Chiefs are still a pretty good team. Mahomes is 5th in the league in passing and 2nd in QBR. They're 12th in rushing. They've got a 3-pronged attack of Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Mahomes himself, though Pacheco is out this week's game against the Broncos. They're 9th in scoring offense and 4th in scoring defense. That sounds like they should be a dominant team. So how are they treading water? Well, the answer is that their wins have been massive by 2 or more possessions each, including over the Ravens and Lions. But their losses have been heartbreakers. They lost by 6 to the Chargers to open the season. Then they lost by a field goal to the Eagles. Then they lost by a field goal to the Jags. And then they lost by a touchdown to the Bills in their most recent game. In a vacuum, that's not bad. It's respectable. But in this year's AFC West, that's only good enough for a distant 3rd place. The Broncos are 8-2 and the Chargers are 7-3. Plus, they have a win over the Chiefs. Similarly to the Jaguars, as we just discussed, having a rematch with the Chargers, 2 against the Broncos, the first one being this week, and a game against the Colts. And then they have the bottom feeders, Texans, Titans, Raiders. That means that the road isn't going to be easy, but it's also an opportunity for them to make up lots of ground in the playoff race. However, if they lose this game at Denver, they might have to win out from there to actually feel good about their chances. Speaking of feeling good, the Broncos are such a weird team.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you feel this way. The Broncos, because they're 8-2, but they feel like they're an inconsistent. I know facts should be so much stronger than feelings.
Yeah, I know.
They feel like an inconsistent team. They started the season 1-2, and their one win was a nail biter over the Titans, and everyone was saying we were retards for picking the Broncos to be our.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Then they had wins of the Jets, Giants, and Texans and Raiders by a combined 9 points.
Congratulations.
They were 9 points away from being 0-4 against the Jets, Giants, Texans, and Raiders.
Jeez.
So that guy right there, sophomore quarterback Bo Nix, he's been electric at times. He's got 2,300 yards of offense. He's got 21 total touchdowns. At other times, he's been pretty underwhelming. He's got 8 interceptions. He's 20th in passing. He's 18th in QBR. And yet, they're 8-2. They lead the AFC West. They're one game out of the number 1 seed right now. But there's a lot of pressure on Nix and head coach Sean Payton to kind of iron out the kinks and take it to the Chiefs this weekend. Along with, they've got one more against the Chargers, and that may very likely decide the division. It may decide the whole AFC. Their 9th-ranked running game has picked up the slack for Knicks, but unfortunately, running back J.K. Dobbins, who was 5th in the league in rushing, is now out for the year. Wow. But all that talk about Knicks, rushing, Sean Payton, let's talk about the defense for a second. They're number 3 in scoring defense. They're only giving up 17.3 points a game. Nice. Unfortunately, they got some bad news there too. Quarterbacks Patrick Surtain, linebackers Jonah Ellis, Alex Singleton, Kareem Reed, all those guys are out. So this is far from a must-win game for the Broncos, but a win does put them squarely in the driver's seat, with the Redskins and Raiders being their next 2 games. Their last 2 games of the year are at Chiefs on Christmas Day and then the Chargers in Week 18. Winning this one might make one or both of those games meaningless, but if they lose this one, well, all of a sudden their starters are going to be getting a lot more work at the end of the year.
Whew. Man, I think that's crazy to think that the Chiefs are almost 500, and that if they do lose this game, then that's it. It's possible that that's it for them, and maybe the evil empire for the Chiefs is over. Although we have the Patriots who are now back and running full force. So there you go.
If the Chargers and Broncos win their head-to-heads against the Chiefs, and especially if the Chiefs lose to the Colts, which is certainly not out of their own possibility. The Colts have been great this year. The Chiefs just missed the playoffs entirely. Moving on to the NFC, I actually don't have as much to say about this game other than to say, what a game. Cover your ears, 49ers fans, but the 7-2 Seattle Seahawks are going on the road to play the 7-2 LA Rams. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites, by the way. Shane, listen to these similarities. Yeah. Both of these teams are 7-2.
Yeah,
both of them are riding 4-game win streaks. Both quarterbacks are in the top 10. Gaudy stats. By the way, I said Mahomes was number 2 in QBR. He's number 2 behind Sam Darnold.
Jeez.
Who's number 1 in the NFL in QBR this year. Both teams have top 10 in scoring on offense and defense. Both teams are relatively healthy heading into the home stretch of the regular season. And both teams have very similar schedules to close out the year, including a rematch with each other in just a month from now. Shane, this is a really exciting game, and it's going to be an expose on what the 49ers have all the work cut out ahead of them. So I'll let you stew on that for a moment. What do you think about the Seahawks?
Well, you said it. They've been pretty healthy throughout the year for the most part. I mean, the 49ers, to bring it back to the 49ers. Trigger. Yeah, I know, but to bring it back, it just seems like every single game they lose a major player. And so, but you know what? With Brock Purdy coming back, and it seems like a lot of the roster's coming back for this week and next week. So that's looking pretty good there. But yeah, it's the fact that they've been healthy for a lot of the season. That's why they're doing so well. And that's why they're the top 2 in the NFC West right now.
So neither of these 2 teams have trailed in a game since week 6.
That's impressive.
Yeah. The Seahawks are currently edging out the Rams, by the way, in the race based on just win percentage in divisional games. The winner of this game is going to have a huge leg up going forward. Though if the winner is the Seahawks on the road, it's going to be an even bigger leg up, especially if they can get that one back on the 49ers at the end of the year. The 49ers still have a win over this team. A couple of things to watch out for. If the Seahawks pass defense, which has been one area of concern, they're going up against Matthew Stafford. Yeah. Matthew Stafford, which we remind our viewers every single week that people weren't sure if Matthew Stafford was going to be able to finish the season in the preseason. Everyone was talking about how he can barely walk. He's got his back issues. You know what? In the last 6 games, Shane, he's thrown for 1,688 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions.
Don't remind me.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Seattle's defensive front must pressure Stafford, which it's done pretty well so far this year. They've got 32 sacks. That's second in the league. Also, the Rams, who have had notorious kicking issues all year and last year, they just activated one Harrison Mavis, a.k.a. the thicker kicker. There he is, to the active roster for Sunday's game. By the way, they call him that because he's fat.
Come on.
Not because he's big bone. That dude is 6 foot, 245 pounds, and it ain't muscle. I'm sorry. All right. Last game of the week. The Detroit Lions, who are 6-3, are going on the road to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 7-2. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites and once again find themselves as the number one team in the NFC, at least for this week. Shane, what do you think about Lions and Eagles?
Well, I think I'll be cheering for the Lions this game. I think if the Eagles want to win this game, they should probably do, I don't know, 50 tush pushes. What do you think, Alan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. You remember how I said all that stuff about the Broncos and how the Broncos are like an 8-2 team, but it just feels like they're not that good?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Detroit Lions for a second.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
If there's a team that's kind of hard to peg, it's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Look, the offense is still humming. 31.4 points a game, the second in the NFL. 10th in passing yards, 6th in rushing. Jared Goff having another consistent, if not flashy, season. The 1-2 punch, running backs Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, continue to punish defenses. Their defense is 7th overall. If I could pick any coach in the league, I'd pick Dan Campbell to be my head coach. So if you're hearing all that, you're asking yourself, well, what's the problem? Well, they have first-year coordinators on offense and defense, which, by the way, is what's going to happen when you're successful and other teams poach your guys, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, Campbell has taken over play-calling duties from offensive coordinator John Morton, which worked last week, but we'll see this week against stiffer competition. On the other side, the Lions have been kind of bad in the defensive red zone. They've given up scores at a 25th ranked 66.7%. And defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard has kind of had to lean pretty heavily on his staff to make adjustments. To be frank, he's looked like he's a little bit in over his head. That week 1 blowout loss to the Packers is ancient history by now. Yeah. But they're 2-2 in their last 4 games with an ugly loss to the Chiefs and a baffling loss to the Vikings. Despite all that, a win here means they're back in the driver's seat. But a loss means they have to finish strong with games remaining against the Packers, Rams, Steelers, Vikings, and Bears, or they're at best looking at road playoff games.
Jeez.
You flip that to the other side, the Eagles, they kind of had that 2-week blip there in October, and yet after a bye week, they suddenly found themselves back to first place in the NFC, and now they have a 3-game winning streak.
Oh, yeah.
A cloud has kind of hung over this team all year with the big regression on offense, in particular, the role of wide receiver A.J. Brown. Mm-hmm. Now, Shane and I have discussed in multiple weeks already this year the drama between Brown, Jalen Hurts. It's kind of been a weekly thing, though it obviously was clear that the team had no intention of dealing the disgruntled wide receiver to another team. But in fact, Brown is still not even the team's leading receiver. That's Devontae Davis by a good 250 yards, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Despite scoring 24.2 points per game, which is still good for 12th, yardage has been way down. They're 25th in passing, but they're also only 21st in rushing at 111.6 yards a game. Saquon Barkley, who I know people love me to say it like that. He can't be expected to top 2,000 yards every year, but it's still been quite a drop off. Listen to this. Last year, he had 2,005 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. This year, he's only on pace for 1,094 and 8 touchdowns. If he misses a game, he doesn't even top 1,000 yards this year. They're still top 10 in scoring defense, by the way, 21.3 points a game. And now with the addition of defensive end Jalen Phillips and the return of Nolan Smith Jr., they looked better than ever in this past week's win against Green Bay. On defense, not offense. All of that combines to give you a team that is 7-2, despite only having a positive point differential of plus 26. To put that in perspective for everybody, the Eagles are 7-2, and their point differential is positive 26. The aforementioned Seahawks and Rams are also 7-2, and their point differentials are plus 103 and plus 98.
Oh, man.
In other words, the Eagles are a team that play it kind of close every single week, win or lose, and that's an awfully dangerous way to live. I don't know. The Eagles and Lions are both teams that happen to be matching up this week. They're both good teams, but they both just seem like something's missing.
Yeah, as someone who hasn't really paid that much attention to the Philadelphia Eagles, it doesn't really. You would think that their running game would be better than that, what you listed there, You think because yes, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts is supposed to be this good dual threat quarterback who's supposed to be a running quarterback who also throws the ball decently well, but it seems like they haven't been doing that this year. So who knows what the missing link is? Maybe they do need to get rid of AJ Brown. Who knows? Because maybe he's some kind of dark cloud that they're just it's a bigger issue than they want to let on. So who knows?
Who knows? But it's too late now. The trade deadline is behind us. We'll just have to wait to see what happens this weekend. But this might be the most excited I've been for a week of football all year with all of those great games. But for our picks section, we're gonna have 3 more games that at least have a little something behind them.
A little bit.
We're gonna start off with we're going to Madrid. Shane and I are going to Spain.
Hell yeah!
Sunday morning for the Washington Redskins going on the road to play the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites. Shane, what do you think?
You gotta be kidding me. The Dolphins are, come on. No, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
I do not believe you. I don't believe you.
Okay, so first of all, not only are the Dolphins 2.5-point favorites, to factor into that equation, of course, the Redskins are going to be starting Marcus Mariota. Jaden Daniels is out with an arm that sticks the wrong direction. And also, the Dolphins have won 2 of their last 3 games. The Dolphins just beat the Buffalo Bills 30-13.
Okay.
They looked kind of okay. The Commanders / Redskins, on the other hand, have lost 5 straight losses. And only one of those was even respectable. The rest of them were blowout losses. So I actually can kind of see it. I think that the Dolphins are going to rack up enough wins so that when Mike McDaniels gets fired anyway, it's awkward.
I mean, they are really just latching onto that Buffalo Bills win, aren't they?
I mean, they should. It was dominant. If they had played like that to start the season, they'd be in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, I know.
Moving on to our next game, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals going on the road to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, listen to this now, the Bengals' biggest win of the year has to be in Joe Flacco's second game. He had only been with the team for 10 days, and they come up with a huge win against the Steelers that sort of at least temporarily kept them in the hunt. Now they're going on the road for a rematch with the Steelers, and the Steelers are 5.5-point favorites at home in that game. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the Steelers are a pretty good team, so I think seems like a pretty solid move there. I'll go with the Steelers to win pretty handily there.
Yeah, it's tough because while the Bengals did have a really exciting win against the Steelers just a few weeks ago, since that time they lost to the Jets and Bears, particularly losing to the Jets. Now, here's the thing. It's so frustrating to watch these end of career Flacco games. They beat the Steelers in a game 33-31, but they needed every single ounce of that 33-point performance to win that game. The next week, they score 38 points and lose. Jeez, the next week, they score 42 points and lose. They are giving absolutely no support to this Flacco offense on the other side of the ball. You hate to see it, but I don't see that trend going any other way. So I do think the Steelers are going to get this one back. Finally, our last one of the day. The Chicago Bears are going on the road to play the Minnesota Vikings. Now, that on the surface, you might think, well, I didn't hear Lions or Packers in my ears, so this game doesn't matter, right? Well, the Chicago Bears are only 6-3. I mean, they're actually a half a game back in the division behind Detroit. If Chicago wins this game and the Eagles beat Detroit, Chicago's leading the NFC North. That is not a mistake you just heard. Whereas the Vikings are 4-5. It's been a rough and tumble year. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Their one win, by the way, in their last 4 games is the Detroit Lions, 27 Detroit in Detroit. Detroit.
Yeah,
so good. I don't know who these teams are. I'll let you take a guess.
I wouldn't be able to guess, but yeah, Chicago Bears being 6-3, that might be the most surprising record, I think, so far this season. The Chicago Bears, I thought they would have been maybe 2-8 or 3, because I still don't think Caleb Williams is that great. So I mean, but hey, I think if they're doing okay, then I think they got this. The Vikings are a bad team, so I'm going to want to say the Bears win this.
It's a tough one. The Vikings are 2.5-point favorites, which is lower than the kind of your typical three at home type of a thing. Yeah. I actually am going to pick the Bears with the upset here. If they're the 2.5-point dogs, then it's an upset to say that the Bears wins. I'm actually going to go with the Bears. The Bears are a team that had a relatively weak strength of schedule going into the year. They've beaten the bad teams, and kind of more often than not have lost to the good teams. So that 6-3 record is a little bit deceptive. I mean, it's a good record, but their first loss was to this same Vikings team. Their second loss was at the Lions. Their next loss was at the Ravens later in the year when the Ravens have started to turn things on. And their wins are over teams such as the Giants, Saints, and Raiders and Redskins. So, look, there's nothing wrong with beating the teams you're supposed to beat. That's what you're supposed to do. But they don't really have a signature win against a contender. And the Vikings are now 4-5. So even if they won, I think that still doesn't really count as a signature win against a contender. However, I think they improved to 7-3. I'm going to go Bears.
Awesome. We agree on that. Let's go.
Let's go. You got a final thought?
I do actually have a final thought. This was an interesting stat that I learned today. Kickoff return rate compared with last season. The dynamic kickoffs in 2024, there were 783. Touchback percentage, 68%. Kickoff return percentage, only 30%. This year, now, I should have said this before, but granted, it's the first week, weeks 1 through 5. So that's, keep that in your little head there.
Okay.
This season, 787 dynamic kickoffs. Touchback percentage, just under 16%. Kickoff return percentage, 81%. So something's going on there with the dynamic kickoffs this season.
My final thought is going to be tomorrow morning's game in Madrid, Spain. It's morning for us. It's not morning for them. Between the Redskins and the Dolphins, I believe that is wrapping up this year's out of continental United States games for the year. It's definitely the end of their European games. I'm just going to go on record and say I get it. The NFL, which is already a multi-bajillion-dollar organization, just can't stand the thought of not making any more money. Stop this crap. If you're going to have games out of the country, those SOBs are going to have to watch the game in the middle of the night, because no one is getting up at like 7:00 on a Sunday to watch your stupid game, and especially not if it's the Redskins and Dolphins. Stop this crap. Schedule the game so it comes on at the same time as the others. Look, I'm watching the Octobox on NFL Red Zone with Scott Hansen. If your game isn't in that box, I ain't watching it.
Hey, just wait until the Super Bowl is played in Madrid. Then you'll be complaining for real. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to the North Korea football game or somewhere in
Pyongyang. Yeah.
Or Antarctica.